Hi scholars, welcome back to Read Aloud. I'm excited today to continue with a new biography. We've been reading a lot of biographies that have been giving us tons of factual information about different important people from the past. We know that we're getting true descriptions of a real person's life by getting information about their childhood, goals, and accomplishments. I want you to be thinking about why there's a biography written about this person today. As we read, we're going to continue with figuring out character motivation. Of course, we're talking about real people, not just made up characters, but we're taking the same steps like we have been to identify these people's motivation. So we're going to include the character or the people's names, text evidence, and what the characters want. Today, we get to practice as we read the biography about Alvin Ailey. What are you wondering based on this cover? What do you think Alvin Ailey is famous for? We're going to have to read and find out. 1942, True Vine Baptist Church. It seemed like the hottest day ever in Texas, in the small, dusty town where Alvin Ailey and his mother Lula lived. Blue-black flies buzzed their songs while the church bell rang. Alvin and Lula worshiped at True Vine Baptist Church every Sunday. When they arrived for services, Alvin slid into his usual seat in the first row pew. There, he would watch his mother sing in the gospel choir, and Lula sure could sing. Her voice rose clear and strong as she sang the morning hymn. The men at True Vine dressed in dignified suits. The women showed off their wide-brimmed hats and fanned away the Texas heat. Some cuddled powdered babies and others hugged their Bibles. True Vine's Reverend Lewis delivered a thundering sermon. The organ rang out, followed by a bellow of tenors singing the hymn. So this text is giving us a ton of information that might help us understand why Alvin was motivated. We know that the text says that he enjoyed beautiful music, and that it said when he arrived, he sat on the first row, and Lula sure could sing. That lets us know that he wants to enjoy Lula's singing. So that's why Alvin sat in the front row. Sweet sopranos and tambourines joined in the hymn. The congregation made a joyful noise. They stepped and swayed with the warmth of the Spirit and raised their palms in revelation. Alvin stomped his feet and clapped his hands so hard they hurt. He sang along. Wow, he must really want to be enjoying this music and become part of it and participate if he's willing to hurt his hands from clapping so hard. Alvin was going to miss the music and rejoicing at True Vine Baptist Church. Days later, Alvin rode a creaky locomotive headed west. He and Lula were going to try life in Los Angeles, California. Times had been hard in Texas and there weren't many jobs. Lula wanted a better life for Alvin. She told him there were more opportunities in the city and more ways to make a decent living. Alvin stared out his window while the train rocked and lurched its way through the dry Texas land. Life in the city would be so different. So the text says that times had been hard in Texas and there weren't many jobs, and that Lula wanted a better life for Alvin. So that lets us know that Lula moved her family to California because Lula wanted a better life for Alvin and wanted to make enough money to be able to take care of him and give him what he needs, even if that means moving to California. She thought that's where it would happen and where she could find a job to provide for him. So some things that as we're getting into the 1940s section of this text that I want you to know about the time period. During this time, segregation was still common in a lot of places. So this also included dance studios and schools, and a lot of them wouldn't allow Black people to attend their school. And a lot of these dance companies in the United States featured dance genres of European origin, such as ballet. And modern dance and dance of African origin or inspiration was really hard to find. So I want you to remember that as we're getting started into more of Alvin's life. Los Angeles was a flashy town. Lula found plenty of work. Most mornings, she left their apartment on East 43rd Place before sunrise, and she didn't return home until the sun was long past setting. Alvin didn't mind, though. On Saturdays and after school, he liked spending time alone, exploring the city streets. Wow, Lula must be very dedicated to doing what she needs to for her son. She first moved them to another spot, or another place in the country, and now she's spending all day out working. She is very dedicated to providing. So Alvin strolled Central Avenue, where nightclubs such as clubs boomed with the sound of big band jazz, swinging music that spilled out onto the street. And while the musicians inside rehearsed for the evening show, Alvin especially liked downtown Los Angeles, where the lights on the theater houses reflected off the pavement. There was the Orpheum Theater, the Biltmore, the Rosebud, and the Lincoln. Outside each theater, a blinking marquee announced the latest show. Pearl Bailey performing live, Billie Holiday, A Night of Blues, Duke Ellington and his band. Wow, we know why Alvin's mom was spending so much time out of the house, but why did Alvin spend so much time in downtown Los Angeles? Well, we learned earlier that he liked watching and participating in music, and now the text says that nightclubs and different clubs boomed with the sound of big band jazz, swinging music that spilled out into the streets. So that lets me know that Alvin decided to spend his time in downtown Los Angeles because he wanted to hear the music and get to participate in that again like he used to like. The men who owned the theaters stacked handbills on their stoops. Each handbill announced the coming attractions. Alvin collected them all. He dawdled along the sidewalk and spotted a handbill showing a black dancer, something Alvin had never seen advertised before. The paper said, "Coming soon to the Biltmore Theater, Katherine Dunham and her dancers in tropical review." Alvin looked carefully at the picture of Katherine Dunham, a beautiful dancer fluttering exotic ruffles. Katherine Dunham and her dance troupe were one of the few traveling shows in the world with black dancers performing dances from Africa, Haiti, and Latin America. Alvin was curious. As he tucked the announcement into his pocket, he noticed Ted Crumb, a skinny boy with spindling legs, hanging out at a stage door nearby. I'm wondering why Alvin stuck this announcement into his pocket. Well, the text says that Katherine Dunham and her dance troupe were one of the few traveling shows in the world with black dancers performing dances from Africa, Haiti, and Latin America. And it says Alvin was curious. So that makes me think Alvin put the announcement in his pocket because Alvin wanted to learn more about them, and he wanted to continue to see the different photos of them. Ted knew all kinds of things about dance. He hoped to dance on stage someday. Ted told Alvin that Katherine Dunham's afternoon show was about to start and that they could see dancing like they'd never seen before. Alvin and Ted crept down the alley that led to the Biltmore stage entrance. They kept quiet and out of sight. With the stage door open just so, they watched the splendor of tropical review. Katherine Dunham and her dancers swirled and lunged to the rhythms of West Indian drums. They were famous for Bahiana, a spicy Brazilian routine, and for a sizzling number called rumba with a little jive mixed in. And Alvin's soul danced along when he saw Katherine's style. Alvin nudged Ted. "What is that they're doing? What is that?" he asked. "That's modern dancing," Ted said. "Watch this." Ted tried Katherine Dunham's Bahiana. Alvin slapped out a beat on his knees and followed Ted's lead. Slowly, Alvin began to move. He curled his shoulders from back to front and rippled his hands like an ocean wave. He rolled his hips in an easy, steady swivel, dancing with an expression all his own. Alvin moved like a cat, smooth like quicksilver. When he danced, happiness glowed warm inside him. Dusk crept over the city. The streetlights of Central Avenue winked on, one by one. Alvin made his way back to East 43rd Place. That night, Alvin told his mother he'd seen black people performing their own special dances. It was a show Alvin would never forget. We're going to stop there. We've learned so much already about Alvin Ailey. I want to think about this page though. Why are Alvin and Ted dancing? Let's try to figure out those two characters' motivation. Using the text, I want you to write down your response to this question. Why are Ted and Alvin dancing? Remember, you're going to include the characters' names. You're going to include text evidence and what the characters want. I can't wait for you to figure out their motivation.